Smell that? Smells like a new marathon. But this sort of barely qualifies. It's only 3 games. They're all RPGs, yeah, but those waiting for the Star Fox love won't have nearly as long as a wait as Mother fans did when I was tackling Metal Gear. And my god, do you know how long folks wanted me to look at these games? I'm sorry, let me try that again. You know how long folks wanted me to look at these two? Forever. I've lost track of time, but rarely did I hear about the first game. I was shocked to learn that series creator Shigesato Itoi really only has the Mother series under his belt as a game designer. Do I count the Japanese only Itoi Shigesato no Basuri #1 game for the SNES where you fish, I think? This guy is primarily a copywriter and author. You glance at his resume for a second and game designer is probably the last thing you think of. In Japan, the series is known as Mother. I did some googling and apparently Itoi named it after a John Lennon song of the same name, Mother, being a huge Beatles fan. In the context of the actual game, it's just a name as far as I'm aware, but that's okay. Despite having the word final in its name, there's over 15 Final Fantasies, not counting sequels. Here in America, we know Mother as EarthBound, and for the longest time, that was just the name of the only title we've ever gotten, which was the second game in the lineup, Mother 2. The first game, which was supposed to be the original EarthBound, was localized and ready for release, but around 1990 to 1991, Nintendo wanted all their attention on the upcoming Super Nintendo, so the release was nixed at the last minute. In June of 2015, to the surprise of many, Nintendo decided to finally give audiences worldwide the release of the first Mother, now titled EarthBound Beginnings, so the title of the game is still called EarthBound, almost as if it was sitting on a shelf for around 25 years. Did you know that the virtual console releases of EarthBound Beginnings and EarthBound were the first time European audiences got their hands on the games, without resorting to emulation? I would think that's how a lot of people experienced the first one. The original localized version of EarthBound Beginnings somehow leaked on the internet some time ago and English fans labeled it as EarthBound Zero. There was also the Japanese only Game Boy Advance compilation of Mother 1 and 2 cleverly titled Mother 1 Plus 2. I guess you can't really call it Mother All-Stars when there's only 2 games at the time of the release. This is about the only thing I won't cover for this marathon since I don't own it and I don't like to emulate games I don't own when reviewing them. And for those wondering if I'm going to spend some time on the modified version of Mother 1 that makes the game easier, no. Forgive me if I'm spewing out information you Mother fans already know like the back of your hands, but keep one thing in mind, especially if you're new to this channel. I don't review games strictly for the fans. I want to see if I can play these and recommend them to the average gamer, the common gamer, the one I can go down the street and ask, hey, you got a few minutes so I can tell you whether or not you should play this game or not? He probably thinks I'm a religious salesperson, but that's the kind of person I try to look out for when making these. But this game is sort of a hard sell from the get-go, a role-playing game from the Nintendo Entertainment System. 2 series pop into my head when on that subject, the aforementioned Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior, or Dragon Quest. So which of these 2 is EarthBound Beginnings like I'm thinking? Or maybe it's something else entirely? Nah, it's totally Dragon Warrior, but I'm jumping ahead here. So what have you folks, you guys ready to get started on the Mother Marathon? I hope you are, and I hope I am too. So get out your Wii U's and let's tackle the first game in the lineup, EarthBound Beginnings. Okay, so the game requires that I give all the main characters their names right up front. Canonically, they're supposed to be Ninten, Lloyd, Anna, and Teddy, but since the game gives me a choice, they're now Johnny, Orlando, Susan, and Bob. Because in a game that's going for a more contemporary setting, there's always a room for a Bob. It's also asking me for my favorite food now. Okay, what is this, a questionnaire? Is it going to ask me for my social security number next? A caption to make sure I'm not a bot? Our story begins with a brief prologue. In the early 1900s, a young married couple named George and Maria mysteriously vanished. Then, 2 years afterwards, George suddenly comes back, not telling anyone what happened or where he had been, and then he begins conducting a weird study. Maria, however, was still missing, never to return. Logically, I would think this would lead to George getting incarcerated for the suspicious disappearance of his wife, but now we jump 80 years ahead to a small house belonging to our main hero. This reminds me of Pokemon, starting our adventure off in the room of the protagonist. That's until the fucking lamp suddenly springs to life and attacks me. What the fuck? And man, I don't know if the virtual console is to blame, but there's some wonky as hell latency issues here just trying to move the boy around, particularly with diagonal movement. Hey, I can give props where they're due. I don't recall many RPGs back in this time with a top-down perspective letting you move in 8 directions. Final Fantasy wouldn't do that until number 7, and Legend of Zelda wouldn't get it until Link to the Past. But moving in those games was much smoother than here. It's almost a struggle. Not enough to turn me away, but I feel the game fighting back. Gotta really squeeze that D-pad. Okay then, let's get back to work here. So Johnny here gets everything in order, knocking down these lamps and his sister's possessed doll, and then he gets a call from his dad, who just nonchalantly thinks all this shit is the work of a poltergeist. Oh, those just happen every day in this house, do they? He explains to the boy that his great-grandfather studied PSI, basically psychic abilities. The dad wants his son to go on a little adventure to see if he can develop his inner PSI powers, and just like that, the 12-year-old boy sets out to do stuff. Here's the deal. The primary goal of EarthBound Beginnings is to gather these 8 magical melodies to form a complete song, sort of like Link's Awakening. A few hours in, the kid finds himself in Magican, a mystical realm outside the boundaries of existence, or some shit like that. It's where you meet up with Queen Mary, who wants you to collect the melody so that she can hear the full song. Why? So that she can hear the full song. I think it's amnesia. I don't recall exactly why, you just do it. The kid doesn't do much in this world that's interconnected to the main story. Collecting the 8 melodies feels very random. You learn the first song by checking this possessed doll, you learn the other songs by checking other things like a bird, a monkey, a piano, a cactus that has a face for some reason, a sleeping dragon. There's no real reason why you learn the melodies this way, you just do. There's very little cause and effect, leaving us with no real build-up to the main quest, such as more backstory for the queen, or more interaction between the friends you recruit to your quest. I've never seen such a random cast of protagonists. And the thing is, this can all be justified when you look at it as a parody or a deconstruction of the JRPG. Perhaps the reason there isn't a defined structure is because we're playing as a group of kids embarking on a role-playing quest, almost as if it were a game of make-believe, making shit up as they go along, and I could buy that if I were 8. I'm nearing 30, and I'm not clicking with both that idea and these kids. Lloyd is a young man who's viewed as a weakling, even by his father, the fucking asshole. He gets picked on and he loves explosives, probably as a result of him being picked on. What else is there to learn about the guy? Nothing much else. He can fix things too. Anna is a girl who one day dreamt that she would eventually meet the main character, and there you have it. Once she joins, she's a complete mute until she suddenly proclaims her love for the boy near the end of the game with a cute little 8-bit dance. I know they're kids, but where's the dialogue? Where's the interaction? The motivation? This comes out of nowhere and I'm confused. Teddy is just a leader of a gang who you beat up and then he joins your party for a bit. It happens pretty late in the game too. I think you get it at this point. Nothing is tied together thematically or narratively in EarthBound Beginnings because there's no visible villain until the very end of the game. This world shares a common problem. An otherworldly phenomenon is causing shit for multiple towns. It's the reason why you fight random encounters like poor old Wally or this hippie, psycho cars and trucks. You deal with it, but you'll learn nothing new about the phenomenon after each town. It makes the adventure incredibly samey. There's a couple of times where you go through what this game considers a dungeon, not so much to advance the story, but just to get an item that lets you access the other town. Physical progression, but no narrative progression. You're just going about your merry way in the most anticlimactic way possible, with little to no boss fights for that added spectacle. The ending snuck up on me. I learned the 8 melodies, I recruit a giant robot that kicks ass but dies soon after. Queen Mary suddenly turns out to be my great-grandmother Maria. She disappears, taking Magicant with her because it was a figment of her dreams, and now, for the first time ever, at the very end of the game, I meet the direct cause of the phenomenon, the real villain of this story, Gaigu. Gigu? Gaigui. Gygus. It's an alien that my great-grandparents raised like a human? A dog? I don't have a fucking clue, but it's grateful of my great-grandparents' hospitality, but wants to kidnap humans because they could be a threat? I am out of fucks to give. So Giggity retreats into his ship after I sing at him enough times, and everyone lives happily ever after. That was certainly an RPG story on the NES. I think I've said what I need to say about it about 2 or 3 paragraphs ago, so I suppose this is where I talk about what you do here, but I am sorry to say, guys, it doesn't get much better. The elements that bind these events are the barest RPG mechanics one would probably expect from a game like this from its time, and knowing that, I shouldn't give the game too much shit. You know what? Let's start with the positives. Going against the standard fantasy setting, EarthBound Beginnings is set in modern times, or 80s modern times, can't remember the last time I saw a rotary phone. Instead of fantastical beasts and magical fantasies, we have stray dogs and factories. Instead of airships and boats for travel, we have bullet trains and a goddamn panzer. It's different, refreshing even. I know the game is over 25 years old at this point, but I still think that holds up, and though there isn't much narrative progression or interaction between the heroes, you can still run into some kooky dialogue by talking to townspeople. Only in a world like in EarthBound Beginnings do you fight modern vehicles or hippies, where rats and teenage gang members can inflict pain by using swear words. Yeah, fuck you little prick, how do you feel now? It's basically what's happening. Oh, now this guy gives me my own swear words to use after I give him some strawberry tofu. Eat shit and die, motherfucker! Yeah, there we go. It's strange. Memorable, it's strange. Let me see, what else can I say? The characters look like they belong in the Peanuts gang? Yeah, I'm sure it's a quality. Oh, you know, okay, it's Charlie Brown saying, eat shit and die, motherfucker! There we go. You know what, the soundtrack. Now that's an actual legitimate compliment. I have Smash Brothers to thank for technically introducing me to some of these tunes, but they sound every bit as good in their original 8-bit form. And you know what else? The game is structurally sound. Final Fantasy 1, I have a soft spot for it, but some shit just straight up doesn't fucking work because of programming errors and whatnot. From what I can tell, everything works the way it's supposed to in EarthBound Beginnings, it's just that what's there is an old-fashioned NES RPG with all the trimmings. This includes needing a guide to figure out what to do next. The game isn't super vague about everything, it's just not entirely obvious even after speaking with townspeople, and a guide is the only way you'll find out what most of your fighting abilities actually do. If you played Dragon Warrior, I bet this looks plenty familiar. You never see your characters in action. You only got enemies in view in the command windows. You can strike them with physical attacks or in the main character's and Anna's case, PSI abilities. Essentially magic, it's just not, called magic. Lloyd is privy to explosives that are not that very helpful to be honest, and Teddy just hits really fucking hard, and he's awesome. I only wish I had this kind of stopping power earlier, because this game right here doesn't know the meaning of the word balance. It kicks your ass early on. The encounters right outside your own house will give you one form of shit or another. They either score those critical hits with your meager ass HP, or they're next to impossible to run away from, and for a while, you're only controlling the kid until you permanently recruit Lloyd to your party around 5 hours later. But 4 of those hours is probably just from grinding alone, which this game is fucking packed to the breaking point with. It is the only way you're surviving encounters early on. You keep close to whatever safe haven you're near at, you fight a couple of battles, rest up at the hotel, and then repeat until you got fucking anchor arms. Then you head to the next area to do pretty much the same thing. I was grinding so much that on one monitor I had the game running on autopilot while the second monitor had Better Call Saul playing, so I just wouldn't lose my mind. This is all until I reached Magicant, and now things get strange. You can call Magicant a central hub in some sense. You're sent here not too far into the game, and this place has everything. A place to restore your health at no cost, a save point, enemies to grind, and shops that, not shitting you here, have some of the best weapons and armor until the final area of the game, and you can come back here at any time. That means if you really wanted to, you could save up money and get everyone outfitted with boomerangs, gold rings, H2O pennants, and magic coins to have the best offense and defense money can buy just a few hours in, which I did. It took some time, but fuck, how often do you play a game where one of the earliest places you visit has everything you need for the whole adventure? It certainly made my journey a bit easier, but the grind was no less cumbersome, and I'll tell you why. Your main character could be at level 10 all the way to fucking level 99, but when you recruit a new party member, they start at level 1. And since your adventure gets progressively harder, this means you have to waste more time training them so that they won't get their asses handed to them in one shot, though this game has plenty of that one-hit kill bullshit. Don't get me wrong. Fucking PK Beam Gamma. Let's just call it fuck you, the spell. You can deflect it if you got a Franklin badge in your inventory, but there's only like 2 in the whole game, and that's assuming you even have room for the damn thing in your extremely limited inventory. 8 slots. 8 slots. With key items, weapons, accessories, and regular items not being separated. Everything's in one bag, baby. Kind of like Pokemon Generation 1, but at least you had more than 8 slots there. Now, when you recruit more people, they bring 8 more slots, but come on, this is pathetic. And it goes without saying it makes item management clumsy as shit. There's nothing more defeating than seeing gift boxes you can't salvage because of limited space. And I'm playing as a kid, that's gotta be like an extra kick in the nuts. And it could be important status curing items too, because let me tell you, you do not want to fall under any status conditions in this game. It could be a cold that saps your health in the overworld that's harder to cure than it needs to be, honestly. Or it could be asthma that prevents the main character from taking action for a few turns, or the frustrating times where you're banded with a rope and can't do jack shit for God knows how long. Hey, I mean, like, the move rap in Pokemon Generation 1. Maybe it's time I go back to that series, 20th anniversary and all that. Never have I played an RPG with an encounter rate so incredibly fucking high. During my 3rd hour-long grinding session that I didn't record because it's a grinding session, I ran into a random encounter after only taking 1 step forward each time for around 5 steps, and by then I was just trying to get back to a place to rest up, so it only doubled my frustration. Traveling from one place to another was never this irritating, and you don't get a method of quick travel until very late in the game when you get to Youngtown, where you can teleport from one previous visited town to another by running in a straight line long enough, and you can't run into anything while you do it, otherwise it doesn't work. Look, there's being different and there's being difficult. I just want to avoid more enemies. Is that really so much to ask for? There wasn't an enemy formation I wasn't sick of. Look at that face right there. That says it all. He's sick of it too, goddammit. Floating eyes, wolves, bears, mooks. Yeah, they're called mooks. Strange robots that hit like tanks. Oh, but you want to talk about shit hitting like tanks? Try everything in the final area of the game, Mount your toy. And I get it. The final area of an RPG is supposed to be tough. But was this area even play tested? Before, enemies at max were doing about 40 to 50 damage with the best equipment possible. But now, I got assholes who are doing that stupid one-hit kill shit all the time. And some who hit for insanely high damage, well above my HP limit, and that's after all that fucking grinding. This is not a difficulty spike, this is a difficulty mountain, and it's called Mount Etoy. I'm running away from most of these battles, Jesus Christ, but since they're also rocking higher speed than my characters, I'm taking very damaging pot shots before managing to leave. Look, I was at death's welcome mat by the time I reached the top. It was horrible. I wish I was able to hold on to Eve a little longer. It's a robot that was designed to protect the main character, and it fucks shit up, but it's taken away so soon after getting it. Just slowly pull off the bandage, why don't you? I think I see why I don't hear many people talk about the first game. It's an unbalanced, grind-happy bare as hell RPG that has some charm, no doubt, but it is awfully limited. And it doesn't help that there isn't much of a story to flesh out and even less character to develop. This isn't even a long RPG, including all the grinding. It took around 15 hours total, but fuck me if it didn't feel like 50 hours. EarthBound Beginnings exists nowadays to show people how the series started. That's it, because everything else is just ugh. I am not touching this one again, I can tell you that, but I'm not super bitter about it because I think it's a very safe assumption that the next 2 games will be much better. But how much better is what I'm really wondering, and I won't find out until next time in the Mother Marathon with EarthBound. EarthBound. This is it. I'm finally tackling that one game that a lot of people wanted me to look at. Remember when I did that straw poll like 2 years ago with like this, Chrono Trigger and Mario RPG ended up winning, and well, you guys waited long enough. Here it is. And will I see what my co-host Nathan sees? Will I see what a lot of people see? Or will I not? It kind of makes you anxious, doesn't it? Well, for me in particular, because I never really finished the game until this review. But I'll explain all of that when I actually get to it. And for all those attending PAX East this coming Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I hope to see you guys there. And with all that said, thank you guys for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic night, and take care.